Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel and welcome to Stretch Your Stamps. This is just a hop that I have joined up with a few other people to do, and our topic is background stamps. So I will be using a background stamp today from a company that is sold at Hobby Lobby. And so you're going to see that in just a few moments here. I also pulled in these ink pads from Catherine Pooler, and so that was Martini, Eucalyptus, and green tea. And this is the stamp that I'm using. It is just of this foliage, and I am going to stamp half of my page with it, and actually I'm doing a double page layout, so I'm going to do half of each page with it. And so I started out with just the Martini stamp inked all over the stamp there, and then I added some eucalyptus and green tea. I'm not really sure if it really made a big difference by adding those other two colors, or if the other two colors really just picked up some of the Martini ink. But it does kind of give a little bit of a variegated look, so it's not just one color. And I do use my baby wipe there to kind of soften up the edge of the stamp. That's what I was doing when I was tapping just the bottom edge of it. So when I flip it over, it doesn't have as dark of an edge on it. And I'm not really sure if that did a whole lot either, really. It did soften it for sure, but it's still got plenty of ink on it. And that Martini ink pad is super juicy because it's brand new. And so I think it might just be kind of mixing in with the other colors as I stamp them over it. But because I did it on the first one, I decided to continue doing it because I didn't want to change the color of the ink that I was actually laying down, and I didn't want to have to redo the first one. Now I do know that there's a slight break in the stamp where I had to do the second stamping. Next to the first stamp, there's kind of a break there, and that's okay. It doesn't bother me. It's not going to show up as much once I get all of the embellishments and such on. And I'm going with a really simple concept of just lining up my photos vertically and horizontally to show as much of the background as I can. But this is also a great way to use a great way to use your photos when you have three in the same orientation. I know otherwise it can be very difficult to get three on a page and have it look good if they're all the same orientation. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. I do end up trimming them down just a tiny bit because I do want the top and the bottom of this paper to show. So this paper that I'm inking with the Martini ink is just another piece of white paper. I've cut it in half, so it's 6 by 12 pieces. And I'm inking the edges up because that's where my photos are going to go. I want to lay them down there and have a green border all the way around the three photos. Now, because my photos are 4 by 6, they're going to reach all the way down to the bottom of the page. So on two of the photos, I am just trimming off about an eighth of an inch, maybe slightly more than an eighth of an inch, so that the top and bottom show. So that does mean that one is 4 by 6 and the other two are 6 by 3 and I don't know, 7/8, somewhere around in there. And that's okay with me because these photos are all just foliage. It's not a big deal. Oh, there is one with a lady in it and one of a sign, but it's not really a big deal. You can't really visually just pick out the two that are slightly smaller, and that's okay with me. Now, if it was something that I would have to worry about it being smaller, I'd want to make sure the one in the middle would be the largest and the two outside ones would be slightly smaller, just so that it had some kind of pattern to it, rather than having two on one side be smaller and then the other one be larger. So then I am playing around with the way that these photos lay down. I do think that I ended up trimming. I just said that I would probably put the larger one in the middle, but I think I left the larger one as the top one in this one, and that is because it is a sign. Again, it's foliage. You can't really tell. It's really just like an eighth of an inch that I cut off of two, so maybe slightly more. So it's not really a big deal. But I'm liking the way it's coming together, and I really like the way that the green edged paper gives a bit of definition to where the photos go. Now, the reason I had that Fern Grotto one laid upside down when I was measuring where I wanted them is because I already had the adhesive on it. So I was just trying to line them up so that I had the same amount of edge on the top as I do on the bottom. And then I quickly realized that I needed some more of that green foliage in on either side of the photos, or on the smaller side of the photos. And so what I'm doing is I'm just stamping it down the middle here, just because it's easier to stamp 2 than it is to do 1. It's much faster. And so that allowed me to go ahead and give both of those outer edges, the above the photos or to the left of the photos, more of that greenery. And I know it looked darker when I stamped it, but it lightens up as it just soaks into the paper. So I'm liking the way that this is looking. And then I pulled out some journaling, or 4x4. I think that's a 4x4. Maybe it's a 3x3. No, it's a 4x4. So I pulled out 2 4x4 cards and a 3x4 card from, I think this is from a Simple Stories collection, but I'm not sure of the name of it. I will try to look that up and link that down below for you so that you have that. And then I am inking everything up with Black Soot Distress ink, including those papers that are behind the photos. And the main reason is because I just want a black edge on it. I don't want the black edge to go all the way up to the photos. I just want it to provide even more definition between the background and the matting of the photos. Now, I didn't do the 2 ends because I knew that one of them, one end is going to have to be trimmed off just a tiny bit, because I don't know if I trimmed my paper slightly different or what, but one of them was just hanging over just a tiny bit from the background paper, if that makes any sense at all. So I just trimmed a tiny bit off so that it would match perfectly, and then I'll be able to go ahead and make that work and ink that up. I also pulled out a bunch of embellishments that I have from my Hawaii trip, and these photos were also taken in Hawaii. They were taken on it's like a river cruise to Fern Grotto. And it's a pretty cool place. It's really green and lush and beautiful. And it was a fun way to spend the afternoon, just kind of hanging out on the boat and walking over to Fern Grotto. It's not a huge long walk or a hike or anything like that, so it's pretty easy and accessible for most people. So aside from getting on and off the boat maybe, and then just a slight walk, which was very wet. They do offer like a kayak tour thing too, but that was a lot more physical, and where you're supposed to get out of the kayaks was super muddy and super, like, it was like, I don't know, a 2 or 3 foot drop from the edge of the where you're supposed to pull your kayak up to get up onto the ground where you're supposed to like go walk up to the Fern Grotto. So it was like definitely not something I was interested in doing, but if you're really young and like to climb around in the mud, hey, it might be up your alley. So then I have some dies. These are from, the large dies are from, I think they're actually all from Elizabeth Craft Designs. They're just 2 different sets. So I just decided to pull out some green vellum and add those to the foliage that I've already got pulled in there. The foliage that I have pulled in there were printables from, I'm not sure. It's either going to be Tracy Reed or the Sweet Shop. So I can link that down below too if I can find what the name of the file is. So I did purchase some printables that were tropical and Hawaiian themed because I knew this album was going to have a lot of it, and I thought it'd be easier and better to print it so I can keep mass producing them rather than buying multiples of the same ephemera pack, which can be very expensive, and then at some point you run out, and if you want to do another layout, then you got to go find it again. So I figured it would be cheaper in the long run to do it this way. It does involve some fussy cutting unless you have a scan and cut, and I was able to use my scan and cut to cut some of those printables out. I'm liking the way that the vellum is looking behind all of this because the vellum naturally would like to curl up as you put some glue on it. Anytime it gets moisture or wet, it likes to curl. And so it's just adding to the dimension and the tactile nature of the layout. So I like that. While I finish up these little embellishment areas, I'll remind you that there are a few other people playing along with this Stretch Your Stamps series today, or hop today. So I will put the links to their channels down below in my description box, and you can go and check them out. I am sure they have plenty of fun ways to use background stamps. And you know, the first thing I thought of was just to go ahead and use it as my entire background. And you certainly wouldn't have to do that. I could have done it on like a strip of paper and then cut that strip up into pieces, or die cut it to be a journaling, like the background for a journaling spot, or the background for an embellishment area. Those are all good ways to do it. So I just thought I would share that it's also fun to use it just as it was intended, as a background. I do have this piece of paper that is from P13, and it has all of these cameras on it. I have been using these cameras throughout my album, not necessarily on every single page, but on several of the pages. They're just tucked into one of the embellishment areas. I like that it's giving a little added continuity throughout the album, and I thought that camera would work perfectly just tucked in right there behind that foliage. And that is another reason I don't glue everything down all the way to the edges, is because then it's harder to tuck things in. I like to glue it down kind of in the middle. I can always go back and tuck a little bit of glue under pieces that are maybe lifting up, and that's pretty easy to do if necessary. But for the most part, it's not even anything that's really necessary, because once you put it in a page protector, those little pieces are going to be held in place anyway. I did find this sticker set from P13 as well. I thought I'd just add this one little sticker to the top of this embellishment area on the left-hand side. And then I'm going to finish the whole thing off with some enamel dots from Gina Marie Designs. If you watch my videos and you've seen me do layout with enamel dots, you've probably heard this before, but they don't stick great. So I always end up adding a little bit of glue, but I don't mind that because you get the whole sheet for $2.25, I think is her pricing on them. And I think that's a great price. And I really love her matte ones. These happen to be matte. And I really like the matte pink on here. That's that peachy pink that matches the flowers so well. And so I find it's definitely worth the price and the little extra bit of having to glue them down. Oftentimes I have to glue down enamel dots from any brand, so it's not a big deal to me. And I think that is pretty much going to finish it off. If you have questions or comments, I would love it if you'd leave those down below. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to subscribe. And if you are, thank you for subscribing. And I would love it if you'd hit the thumbs up down below as well. Again, don't forget to check out everybody else who is playing along, and their links are below, and I will have all of the list of things that I have used down below for you as well. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. I will see you guys again in a few days with another video. Bye-bye.